With the 2080 Ti being one of the most expensive initial release cards ever by Nvidia, one has to wonder if the performance increase over the 10 series really justifies that price. Hey guys, I'm Morphologist, and in this video I'm going to try to answer that question for a very specific part of the gaming community, and that's you Starcitizen players out there. Now I will be looking at some other games in this video for a baseline to kind of get an idea of where it falls in other games, because games are going to be optimized differently, and Starcitizen certainly is no optimized game itself. The resulting number should really then tell us if there is a substantial increase in performance across the board. The system specs for both tests shall remain the same, as it appears here on the screen. This is to give you guys an idea of where you'll fall in the spectrum of performance should you upgrade to a 2080 Ti. The first game I jumped into before getting into Starcitizen was Battlefield 1 because it's a game that is arguably the most optimized to work with Nvidia cards. As you can see here, the performance increase in the campaign wasn't that substantial. That being said, the feeling was definitely improved. Either it was consistency of frames, or maybe the fact that it was just that little bit higher that made the experience a lot more comfortable. This again is running at 1440p at ultra settings and DirectX 12 enabled. After a brief look at Battlefield 1, I hopped back into Space Engineers to see what sort of performance increases we'd be looking at in this game. Unfortunately, the results were very different here. It looked like the frames were pretty much identical, with the 2080 Ti only edging out the 1080 in brief moments where it spiked above 100 FPS. So we can see here that there are two different games here that are giving me very different results. One is showing a somewhat interesting increase in performance, whereas the other really shows none at all. So now what about Starcitizen? Well, a little bit of a different story. As you'll see here in the character creation screen, the increase in FPS is actually somewhat substantial, at some points hitting above 20 FPS more than the 1080 Ti. But if you know Starcitizen, you'll know that performance offline is very different than performance online, because on the online client, the server can limit performance pretty severely. Predictably, the performance for both the 1080 and the 2080 here were pretty bad, sometimes reaching below 30 FPS, which is to me the threshold for an enjoyable experience. However, you can see that there is still a 10 FPS difference on average between the 1080 and the 2080 Ti, making it so that the 2080 is more often experiencing 30 plus FPS than the 1080. While this certainly isn't the ideal 60 FPS, it does make the experience a lot better on the 2080 Ti. Fresh server restarts also exhibited some pretty extreme highs for the 2080, sometimes reaching above 50 FPS in Lor Ville, which is pretty incredible. Leaving Lor Ville, though, yielded some unusual results. The performance difference between the 1080 and 2080 was cut down to pretty much nothing, with their averages seeming to be about the same, with the 2080 only occasionally reaching substantially higher frames than the 1080. However, since this data seems to contradict all of the other data we've collected so far, it would seem to suggest that this may be more related to server health rather than an actual representation of performance. So then it's a good thing that we're examining more than just this one scene to establish whether or not there is a difference between these two cards. Well outside of Lor Ville and now at another outpost on Hurston, we see that the performance increase does return to normal, with the 2080 having average frames about 10 higher than the 1080. With this data collection then, we can conclude that the 2080 Ti does indeed offer a performance boost over the 1080 Ti, boasting at least in two games an average FPS gain of around 10 to 15 frames per second. So then, does this increase in performance justify the incredible price tag? Well, at least for many of you, you've probably already come to your own conclusion. For me at least, I think it's far too expensive for the performance increase that I personally experienced. Were it not for the RTX feature, which is going to come into play for my personal professional career, where V-Ray is going to begin using the RTX cores, then I probably would not have upgraded from the 1080 Ti. And that would be my advice to you. If you currently have a 1080 Ti and you think you could live without the 10 FPS increase in performance, then don't upgrade. It really is not worth the price. If the price were to come down though, I would say, yeah, upgrade to the 2080. The performance increase is pretty nice, but definitely not at $1,200 US. But what do you guys think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know down in the comments section below. Also, did you recently get your hands on a 2080 Ti? What's your experience? I also want to know what performance increases you've personally experienced with your new video card. If you'd like to see more content like this, also let me know by hitting the like button and subscribing. Finally, if you haven't gotten into Starcitizen yet and you're looking to get into the game, make sure you use my referral code down below in the description of the video. It will give you 5,000 UEC starting cash and help me out by getting me a Javelin. Eventually. It's gonna be a long time. Anyway guys, hope to see you next time. I've been Morphologist. See you around the verse.